A reporter is interviewing a 110-year-old man, and he asks him the secret to his longevity. "It's simple," the man replies. "I never argue with anyone, so I have no stress in my life." The reporter laughs it off. "That's ridiculous. That can't possibly be the reason." The man shrugs and says, "Yeah, you're probably right." In our Shabbat liturgy, we pray for long life and ample sustenance. We want more than a roof over our heads, so we create nice homes. We provide more than bread and water for our families and ourselves. Rather, we serve satisfying, hopefully nutritious meals. And while we pray for long life, we really strive for more than length of years, but for a life well lived. Today's parasha, Ki Tavo, calls upon us to observe mitzvot. Is observance of mitzvot enough? Perhaps it's about our relationship with God. Just as addressing the basic human needs is not enough, simply observing mitzvot is not enough. Surely we can keep kosher and yet not take care of our bodies through poor nutrition or by overeating. We can honor our mothers and fathers, yet not set aside adequate time to call or visit them. To help us get to a life well lived, we need to hear God's voice, which Tanakh portrays as the kol demama daka, a still small voice. What is this still small voice? I remember when my son Sammy was little and we watched Pinocchio. I was intrigued to hear Jiminy Cricket use this idiom since I remembered it from our High Holiday liturgy. In English, you might recall the expression, still small voice, used in the context of letting your conscience be your guide. As Jews, we recognize kol demama daka from 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 12, as a soft murmuring sound, the voiced silence of God's presence, a sound that is both still and slightly audible. This hints at a type of religious experience otherwise beyond words. The still small voice is also mentioned in Unatana Tokef, the prayer passionately chanted on Yom Kippur, in which God is portrayed as a shepherd over his flock, counting and examining each sheep one by one as it passes under his rod. In this prayer, when the great shofar of God is sounded, a still small voice is heard. Ultimately, we can recognize this still small voice as the voice of God. And what is this voice of God trying to tell us? Today's parsha, Ki Tavo, outlines a series of laws that, if ultimately followed by the Jewish people, will secure a relationship with God. In Deuteronomy chapter 26, verses 18 through 19, we read, "The Lord has affirmed this day that you are, as he promised you, his treasured people, who shall observe all his commandments. And you shall be, as he promised, Am Kadosh Ladonai Elohecha, a holy people to the Lord your God." I propose that we should strive to reach beyond the mitzvot, the commandments. We should surpass the letter of the law to honor our relationship with God and with each other. As a manager, when I evaluated performance, I was supposed to give those employees who did their jobs, even did their jobs well, an average rating, because they fulfilled what was expected of them. Only by performing above and beyond the expectation could they earn an exceptional rating. Likewise, when Sammy was at Morashah Jewish Day School, students would earn an average grade, B or C, for mastering a subject, but could not earn the better grade A unless they were observed implementing what they had learned, demonstrating they understood how to use what they had learned. As compassionate Jews, we can identify with this ideal of exceeding expectations as we strive to fulfill mitzvot and improve our connection with God. Our relationship with God is also addressed in the reading from the prophets for this Shabbat. We would have heard if we were chanting the Haftarah. The sixth of 7 Haftarot of consolation serves as a bridge between the mourning of Tisha B'Av and the renewal of Rosh Hashanah. All these Haftarot feature comforting themes for a nation traumatized by the destruction of the temple and the exile. Here, Isaiah focuses on images of light to remind the people that though they may be experiencing a dark time, God's countenance and light will eventually return. This has never felt more relevant than now. The Haftarah, which emphasizes Israel's bright future, is also an appropriate antidote for the lengthy curse that is contained in today's parashah. For a congregation that has just heard from the Torah reading of the devastation that God will inflict on a disobedient nation, the soaring glory that Isaiah describes is especially poignant and hopeful. I pray for a long life. I don't think of my own mortality, mostly that of my elderly parents. Yet I think of those we've lost in recent years, premature losses. My cousin Alan at 64, the Jewish funeral director in Wilmington, Delaware, who was a philanthropist and family man. My contemporaries, our friends, including Michael Deutsch, who was a loving husband and father, who quietly, yes, quietly, did for our community. And Bruce Manning, a devoted father and husband who dedicated himself to enhancing life through Hillel. Our friend Sherry Mencher, both a devoted mother and grandmother, who also served our Jewish community. And my friend Lisi, a loving mother, daughter, and sister, who worked toward establishing peace between Arabs and Jews in Israel. And while their passing leaves an emptiness for me and for their communities, the loss of these special people is profound for their families. Their lives were tragically cut short, and yet I believe we can say that they reflected the life well lived, not just by fulfilling the mitzvah of tikkun olam, repairing the world, but also by their devotion and dedication to their families. Blessed with the gift of years, we continue to have opportunities to make a difference in our world and to give our relationship with God meaning. Some of the ways we can do this is by connecting with others, even in these challenging times, supporting a bereaved or isolated friend, assisting with synagogue activities, serving on committees that help to enhance life at Temple Bethel or the broader community, or by inspiring our families and others to live our values. We can also do our part in Tikkun Olam, repairing the world outside our immediate community, by exercising our right to vote, speaking out and taking action against injustice, and by helping to feed those in need of food or spiritual sustenance. There's a midrash where, with a poignant cry, a man asks, God, it is such a difficult world. Why don't you send someone to change it? And God answers, I did send someone. I sent you. As we approach the high holidays, listen to the Kol Damama Daka, the still small voice, and be that someone, and yours will be a life well lived. Shabbat Shalom.